box. 1, 2, 3. This box is Tiny's box. Now you see me. Oh, now you don't.
Oh.
This box is Tiny's box. 1, 2, 3.
Tiny! Now look what's happened. There's jam everywhere. Tiny, made me all surprised.
It's good to have surprises in things. Anyway, I think I'm going to go and show Tilly now, all right?
Oh, well,
Okay, I'm going to go now.
well, Tiny, hang on a minute.
Ça alors? Oh là là! Oh Tiny, bonjour!
Hello, Tilly.
Tiny!
Yeah.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais?
What am I doing?
Oui!
Well, Tilly, this box, right, is Tiny's box. And I've got a song that goes with it. Do you want to hear it?
Oh oui!
Yeah. All right, hang on. I won't be a minute. I just have to get ready.
Oui! La boîte de Tiny! Une chanson pour la boîte de Tiny!
Right. Ready?
Oui!
This box is Tiny's box. Now I'm up and now I'm down. This box is Tiny's box. 1, 2, 3. This box is Tiny's box. Now you see me, now you don't. This box is Tiny's box. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Oh, Tilly! Oh dear. Tilly's falling over. Tilly, are you all right? Hang on, I'll just get out of my box. I'll help you. My box. Tom! Tom, can you help? Oh, there you are, Tom. Could you help Tilly, look, because she's dropped off her log and she's falling in the bushes only I can't get out of my box at the moment.
Tiny,
Yeah.
excuse me. You've been doing your Tiny's box song again.
They stand behind me, I protect them. They stand next to me, I defend them. Stand against me, I show no mercy.
I'm so sorry.
My favorite type of people on the internet are those who think their life is a massive anime movie with them starring as the center of the world. Because these people are so selfish and inconsiderate of other people that it makes my butt cheeks clench and my dingling curl up as I cringe in agony. Main character thinks he is taser proof.
Back up. Stop. Say something. Stop. Daisy, bro. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. With great power comes great responsibility.
Bro really thought he was Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, what did this guy expect? He thought, bro, he actually thought he was the main character. He thought he had plot armor because the he is taser proof.
Back up. Stop. Say something. Stop. Daisy, bro. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. With great power comes great responsibility.
Bro really thought he was Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, what did this guy expect? He thought, bro, he actually thought he was the main character. He thought he had plot armor because the main character never dies, right? The main character can't die until they get shot by a taser, bro. This
My books. Tom! Tom, can you help? Oh, there you are, Tom. Could you help Tilly, look, because she's dropped off her log and she's falling in the bushes only I can't get out of my box at the moment.
Tiny,
Yeah.
excuse me. You've been doing your your Tiny's box song again, haven't you?
Well, I might have,
Yes, you have, young Tiny. Hang on a minute, Tilly.
Yeah, all right. Tilly's all right. John's gonna come and help you. I'll come too. Hang on. Quick.
Right, I'm gonna get you out. Right, you ready? You right?
Oh, Tilly, you all right?
Oh là 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 là. C'était génial la chanson, hein.
Yeah, that was a lovely song, wasn't
Well,
it?
you
Tilly?
like my song?
Yeah.
Avec une grande surprise
Yeah, with a
dedans.
great big surprise in it, Tiny.
Joue-la encore, Tiny.
Well, you want me to do my song again,
Yeah.
Tilly?
No.
Oh, brilliant. All right, then here we go.
Right, ready?
Ready?
Attends, je vais jouer.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to play some magic music? Oui. Oh, brilliant. Okay, here we go. This box is Tiny's box. Now I'm up and now I'm down. This box is Tiny's box. 1, 2, 3. This box is Tiny's box. Now you see me. Now you don't. This box is Tiny's box. Ready?
Ready?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh dear.
Tiny.
I'm in the store over here.
Are you all right, Tiny?
Yeah, I'm all right. Cool. Tilly's magic music made me fly in the sky.
C'était une surprise.
Yeah, it was a really big surprise, I reckon.
Cat.
Yeah.
It was a Tiny's box surprise.
Tiny's
So I was doing research for a video on Gaither's Pond, a computer-animated Christian series from the late 90s famous for its hilariously bad animation.
But no, I gotta run a retraction.
I was doing my thing, Googling around for other examples of 3D animation from the late 90s and early 2000s to compare Gaither's Pond to show how ugly it truly was, and that's when I saw this. Ain't that something? A computer-generated family, and they're so lifelike and not at all terrifying. I like how not scary the dad's big sausage-fingered beef-pattied hands are. And the mom's dead empty eyes really make me wanna, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I can tell you this much. I'm gonna do it. This looked bad, but it also looked funny, and it's 3D animation that I didn't know anything about, so I wanted to know more about it. I clicked on the link and was led to the Cartoon Research Facebook group. A fella by the name of Ben Vanesti had made a post containing this image that I had found in Google Images. But that wasn't all. He had 2 more images, and his post read as follows. While I was looking through a vintage issue of Animation magazine from the year 2000, I discovered this live-action animation hybrid sitcom nobody's heard of called The Rumfords. Since there are no videos of it outside of a promo, I figured I'd share its existence with you all in hopes clips or even episodes of it can somehow be found. And if you click on that link in the post, you're greeted with this.
And on Fridays, there's a new family moving into the sitcom neighborhood, and they're a little bit more animated. What? Meet the Rumfords. Cool. The first sitcom to blend live action and animated characters, starring the voice of George Wendt as the family dog.
I don't know whether to roll up a newspaper and smack you or give you a big wet kiss. Get the paper.
The Rumfords, the first cyber sitcom of the 21st century.
Jesus Christ, what a nightmare. This is one of the most amateurish, uncanny promos I've ever seen. There is just no way this was supposed to air on actual TV. Look at the way the dad eats corn on the cob. Look at this baby smack a bunch of pancakes out of existence. When the dog talks, he tilts his head in such a way so that you can't see his mouth, so they didn't have to sync the lines to it. Like, so much laziness was crammed into this 30-second promo. It's shocking. And speaking of laziness, the dog is voiced by George Wendt. He played Norm on Cheers, and hearing the effort he put into this line, if you told me he died before he recorded it, I would have believed you.
Get the paper.
Also, I didn't really dig too deep into this, but the music from the Rumfords promo sounds identical to the music from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
The Rumfords, the first cyber sitcom of the 21st century.
Maybe it's a public domain thing, but one way or the other, this is like a cobbled together mess of a promo, missing graphics, missing effort in a lot of areas. It is unbelievably bad. And unbelievable is a key word here, because when I first saw this promo and this post, I thought it was fake, okay? If you look up the Rumfords on the Lost Media Wiki, it's not there. And that told me that, okay, this is either a brand new discovery or someone's having a laugh making up a shitty show with a bunch of reused assets that they found free on the internet. So naturally, I just Googled the Rumfords real quick after watching this promo, trying to find out more about it, and I realized that this was, in fact, a real show at some point, and Ben Venesti had genuinely just made a brand new animation Lost Media discovery. So on the count of 3, let's all thank Ben Venesti. Don't worry, not the only time we're doing this bit in the video. It cropped up way more than I thought. All right, count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Ben Venesti. Way to go, way to play along at home or on the bus or wherever you are in public. If you didn't play along, fuck you. But what was the Rumfords? What was it about? Did any of it ever come out? Well, all these questions and more will be answered in this video here today. And I went all out. This has been a video 2 weeks in the making, and I made sure to put in just about all the legwork I physically could, and all of my research that I've put together will be posted on the Lost Media Wiki the same day this video goes up. If that is in fact how the Lost Media Wiki works, I've never been able to add anything to it before, so I will try to have it all up on the same day. With that said though, let's talk about the Rumfords, and specifically what this show was going to be about. The Rumfords are an animated family living in a live-action neighborhood. The family was made up of such memorable characters as Barry Rumford, the goofy dad, Justin Rumford, the goofy-looking son, and Tootsie, the low-energy dog. And that's all the names I was able to find. They all came from the same promotional image where their names were listed, but it was only those 3, so no other names. Lost Media, that's what you get sometimes. The Rumfords move into a live-action neighborhood after their show gets canceled, which is kind of a cute idea. The Rumfords are literally a goofy cartoon family within the show itself, at least according to this one source right here. But they're out of the job and now have to face the real world, the real world, with real people instead of tunes. It's kind of a fun premise for a show, even though it is pretty gimmick heavy. If it wasn't like a animated family going into the live action world, is it just a weird family moving to town? Like, hopefully you'd have a little bit more than that, and luckily the Rumfords seemed to realize that, and they added a little extra pinch of drama, which was that the Rumford family was going to have an adopted live action daughter who is confused as to whether or not she is a toon or a human. Honestly, not that bad of an idea, but I'll have you note that this live action daughter is not featured in any of the promotional material I could find. I get they wanted to show off the awesome animation, but if the whole crux of your show relies on live action characters interacting with animated characters, you should probably show a live action character alongside them, at least in like a poster or something, especially if one of them is a part of the Rumford family. But I think we all know the real reason why they weren't marketing with a live action person alongside these animated characters. It's because it didn't look good. It looked terrible. The pilot episode of the Rumfords was likely about the Rumford family first moving into the neighborhood, though I'll admit this is just an educated guess based on the premise for the series and the IMDb credit for Craig March as a mover. As for other episodes, well, we just plain don't know for reasons that are going to be very apparent as this video carries on. But quick spoiler alert, those episodes were never finished, we never heard anything about them, and they are most likely in a trash can somewhere, or perhaps a large bog. I imagine the tone of the series was very lighthearted, silly, and schmaltzy. I don't think they did anything crazy like using the tunes as an allegory for racism or anything like that. PAX TV, the network that was going to air the show, was known for having pretty family-centric content to the point where a lot of people consider it to be the religious network on TV. They even had some VeggieTales specials back in the day. Also, it's important to note that PAX TV only started broadcasting in 1990 1998, so it was relatively new to the scene and looking for a hit. Could the Rumfords be the hit they were hoping for? Would this be their Simpsons? You know, it honestly kind of depends on which season of The Simpsons you're talking about, but I'm gonna go ahead and say no, this did not become their Simpsons. So who made this thing? Well, The Rumfords was produced by Abrams Gentile Entertainment and Sexton Entertainment with a planned Q1 2001 release date according to the excerpt from Animation Magazine hosted by Ben Venesti. The same excerpt claimed it was to be directed by David Steinberg, a legend in the world of comedy. They also tout their use of motion capture and claim that The Rumfords is the first live-action animated hybrid sitcom ever to be shown on primetime television. Now, of course, I could make a joke right there about this show never airing on primetime television, but I can't. Ooh, foreshadowing. Now, this promo that we have originally came from Abrams Gentile Entertainment's website. AGE is a company that specializes in making licensed toys as well as their own original toy lines. And for a time in the late 90s and early 2000s, they also produced some TV content. Now, AGE is a very difficult company to find information on, mostly because their website currently looks like this in the year 2025. It is so old and archaic that the Rumfords is still listed on it to this day. But be careful when you click on it, because when you do, it automatically downloads that Rumford promo trailer that I've been playing throughout this video. Now, I know I already went over the story, but real quick, I just want to read you the brand overview from AGE's website because I find it very funny. The Rumfords are just like every other all-American family. Granted, they're a tad more animated than the average person next door, but that's because they are. What a stupid sentence. The first primetime situation comedy to seamlessly integrate computer-generated imagery, CGI, motion caption animation, and live action. The Rumfords is a weekly off-the-wall half-hour series that premiere on PAX/NBC-TV that blends the comic sensibilities of All in the Family and Cosby with the magic of today's cutting-edge animation technology. All the Rumfords want out of life is to be accepted just like everyone else, animated or otherwise. Is that too much for a cartoon to ask? You're telling me that show got canceled? You kidding me? That's good. Now, AGE's role was likely going to be more focused on merchandising than actually making the Rumfords as a TV show. I'm sure they helped in some capacity, but in my research, it seems like Sexton Entertainment were the ones really heading up the production. But speaking of merchandising, this is a good way to segue in real quick before we talk about Sexton Entertainment. The fact that there is a trademark for the Rumfords that was filed about a day before it was announced that PAX TV was buying it. More on that later. But merchandising was mentioned throughout that trademark. And on the YouTube video upload of the promo for the Rumfords, someone claims to have seen a Rumfords lunchbox on TikTok. Why they would lie about that, I don't know. Maybe they're mistaken, but it is very likely that there was some form of merchandising made for the Rumfords if AGE was going to bother to have it on their website at some point. Maybe they produced some prototypes or something and something got out, but I would absolutely love to believe that there is Rumford merchandising out there somewhere. I did look for some, wasn't able to find it, but if you are a lost media researcher like myself, keep an eye open. You never know. That could be a really cool find. Anyways, the other producing company was Sextant Entertainment, a Vancouver studio that shut down in 2002 because it went bankrupt. I didn't recognize a ton of the stuff they worked on, but they did co-produce the Mr. Hell Show, and a lot of really talented people worked on the Mr. Hell Show, including Jeff Swampy Marsh, who would go on to do Phineas and Ferb. There are also a bunch of other really cool people that worked on the Mr. Hell Show. I just thought I'd bring up real quick that there is a YouTube channel for it that was created in in July 2025, and I'm pretty sure it was made by someone who worked on the show. I'm not sure who, but their little about section has what everyone went on to do after the show got canceled. Super interesting. Just thought I'd give it a shout out. I watched like an episode and a half of the Mr. Hell show. It's fine. It's very obviously like a cheaply animated show that kind of got lost to time. But with that out of the way, Sexton Entertainment rolled out the Rumfords. At least that's what this playback article says from June 12th of 2000. The series had 13 episodes ordered from PAX TV on May 17th of 2000. The budget per episode was somewhere between $500,000 and $650,000. I found two different budget listings, so it's not perfectly clear. Most sources had the series releasing in Q1 or spring of 2001. That was the goal, and production began in Vancouver in sometime around June of 2000. With less than a year to work and the ambitious nature of the show, it's likely that production on the Rumfords was incredibly difficult. Also, it's possible the budget of $500,000 to $650,000 per episode held the show back considerably. And this was in large part, in my opinion, because this was a hybrid series. You have an animated TV show, even one that's CGI, you can get by with $500,000 to $650,000 an episode. It might not look amazing, but it's enough money to get something done. The problem is when you're making an animated TV show and a live action TV show at the same time. Your costs don't really go down when you do that just because, oh, we don't have to draw a background now because we can use this real location. If anything, that makes it more expensive because you have to make a real location or go to a real location, which means you have to get a crew. If you're working in live action, you have to get live action actors who need to eat actual food. It just gets more and more complicated, and I don't see $500,000 to $650,000 being enough money to really pull that off in an efficient and good-looking manner. Now, as late as October of 2000, we know that the Rumfords was still planning on releasing in spring 2001, or at the very least, just releasing in general because PAX TV was showing the show off at MIPCOM 2000. Now, MIPCOM was an area where I spent a lot of time researching. I wanted to find like videos of the floor, like if it's a convention or something, or the PAX TV showcase where they're showing off more footage of the
Perhaps I could have talked about L+ ratio a good while ago, but it's lasted long enough and gotten to the point where it's self-referential, which always makes for interesting discussion. Of course, we have to talk about getting ratioed, which at first seems to indirectly reference gaming culture in terms of kill-death ratios, but actually began as a direct reference to having more replies to a tweet than any other form of metric. Of course, this meaning of ratio has been used for years, first popping up around 2017. However, it has become even more significant simply because it has been incubating and evolving in the back-to-tank that constitutes digital spaces. Nowadays, one might come across a pirate yelling L plus plundered plus no wenches plus marooned plus scurvy. Due to the fact that a lot of modern slang has been added to the simple ratioed comment, such as the common L signifying a loss, people have the simple ratioed comment yelling L plus plundered plus no wenches plus marooned plus scurvy. Due to the fact that a lot of modern slang has been added to the simple ratioed comment, such as the common L signifying a loss, people have become so used to seeing these phrases that they've turned them into ironic vehicles for expressing silly insults. The energy
What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning? Way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises early in the morning. Shave his belly with a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor early in the morning. Way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises early in the morning. We'll put him in a longboat till he's sober, put him in a longboat till he's sober.
know this is a turn in mood from the previous video I made, but I felt like I needed to tone down the mood and put something else out for the people finding me from that one. In a previous video, I talked about an analog horror series by the name of Urban Spook. That's the channel, by the way. The series itself is actually called The Painter, which was pretty horrendous. At least with The Painter, though, there was talent in the art being shown, and the music that eerily plays in the background of each video. But how does someone make an analog horror so tasteless that it is subject to near universal backlash, to the point that the creator deletes their whole presence? Well, a horror creator crossed the line to quite a few people with the making of their video, 6/06/2006, Nickelodeon Hijacking Incident, which is an analog horror take on SpongeBob. The video starts with a clip of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 2, Episode 22A, Something Smells, a very popular episode of the series in which SpongeBob eats something a little smelly, which ruins his breath and makes everyone averted to him. The fable goes that while this episode was playing on the 6th of June 2006, Nickelodeon was subject to quite a peculiar hijacking. I will say props to the creator because the Nickelodeon schedule for that day did actually have that episode playing at 8 p.m, so at least they did their homework in that department. Through the VHS filters that have been overlaid on top of the episode, we are shown the scene where SpongeBob breaks a mirror with his bad breath and is convinced that he is ugly. During SpongeBob's "oh no," the feed starts glitching out. We are then met with a screen that is very typical of analog horror. Fire in the background, SpongeBob melting, and not without some of analog horror's favorite, those eyes that everyone loves to use to invoke that flight or fight reaction. But what's the significance of this screen? Sure, it's off-putting if I'm 10 years old, but is there a reason why SpongeBob is suffering such torment? The feed of the episode cuts off, and the program cuts to a picture of a small river. SpongeBob experiencing gruesome torment, juxtaposed with the serene picture of a river. An interesting choice for sure. The channel then cuts to the card it would play as if the episode had just ended, and the channel was transitioning to another episode. But this scene is where all the lore comes out. Steven, why would you murder me? Steven, I thought we were husband and wife. Steven, your behavior was normal at the time when we were together. Steven, why did you kill me? Steven, please tell me why. And that would be all the interjections that would be made where text is meant to go. I'll just give you the next scene, and I will be warning you guys, seizure warning, in case you need to skip that. I'll give you a couple seconds to go to the timestamp on screen to skip that thing.
My pants fell off. Your weekend continues Sunday at 7. Team Nick.
If you had to skip that clip, you really didn't miss much. The word "why" just flashes on screen very quickly, which could induce seizures for some people. But this scene further cements the question of why, and it seems like someone named Steven killed his wife, and now the apparitions of his wife are taking form in the hijacking of Nickelodeon. The text on screen during the transition card pretty much gave all the lore for us. But who is Steven? Well, after the seizure-inducing scene, the feed fades out, and we are met with a screen that would be the subject of a lot of controversy. We have this screen, which is an edit of the created by Steven Hillenburg screen, but more maliciously manipulated to say, "See you in hell, Steven Hillenburg," with rather mismatched fonts. The video feed fades back to the Nickelodeon logo, and then to black, and we are met with the maintenance screen, which brings an end to this short analog horror piece. From this, there seems to be a bit of pretty obvious lore, and then I'll sprinkle in a bit of my own analysis, which you're free to agree or disagree with. The date this happened in lore is June 6, 2006. the 666 Day, which everyone seems to love using for their horror. This video follows the wife of Steven, who is haunting Nickelodeon and trying to reach out to him via the TV channel. But why Nickelodeon? Well, because See You in Hell Stephen Hillenburg alludes to the idea that it was Stephen Hillenburg himself who killed his wife. Stephen Hillenburg being the creator of SpongeBob for those uncultured. It makes sense that of all places to haunt this man, it would be in his own creation. But even then, why the cursed SpongeBob? Why the river? Well, my theory around these two elements is that the SpongeBob is being used as a way to scare Stephen and show him that that is his upcoming fate for what he's done. The river might be my biggest stretch in an attempt to tie everything together. I theorize that this is the river where Stephen Hillenburg left his wife after he killed her, or that he just killed her there. It may be a bit of a reach, but this is honestly assuming the creator made this with an overlying narrative on top. It's entirely possible the scary SpongeBob and river were just put there to be eerie. And I wouldn't know for sure because the reception of this video caused the creator to wipe everything. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't reach out for comment. The creator of SpongeBob, Stephen Hillenburg, died of ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease on November 26, 2018. This death predates the making of this analog horror video, whose posting date I can't find to the exact point, but it's safe to assume it was made after 2018 because analog horror and, it's a very new genre. The narrative being written around the idea that a deceased and beloved children's animator had murdered his wife left a bad taste in people's mouths. This is just in poor taste, man, and extremely fucking disrespectful. I hate analog horror and its creators. How tasteless do you have to be to make this shit? This user, of course, elaborated on this claim before anyone here gets defensive about liking analog horror. Glad I always mute before I tweet. Anyways, I was mostly exaggerating when I said I hate analog horror and its creators. I myself am into the Walton Files. I was generally not in the best mood when making this tweet. What I was trying to say was that the analog horror community has a tad issue where the most creators tend to use real deceased people in their videos. I am not primarily saying every single one of them do this. I as a fan can at least acknowledge that a lot of videos and their creators are not very good. According to the in-universe lore, this was before Stephen Hillenburg died, which, it is unironically a defense that people who liked this video would make. But obviously this didn't happen, and the video reeks of someone trying to use the shocking nature of spousal murder and combining it with a beloved figure to try to invoke a reaction. The creator, as you can see, got a reaction, but not one of fear, but of hatred. The intense backlash led to the creator taking his video off of YouTube, along with deleting his entire channel, with his Twitter and Instagram as well. I don't know how I feel about the man being chased off of all his platforms just for making a bad video. I think that it wasn't good, and it was pretty tasteless to besmirch the name of Stephen Hillenburg for extra shock points. Mass harassment, though, just isn't the answer. I don't want to overstep my case here. I do think that if you would really need to besmirch the name of someone who is well beloved and dead in order to get a reaction, I don't think you had a great idea to begin with. At least this guy just took his stuff down and let people be mad at him, unlike a certain other analog horror creator. It's also good he didn't do a slime beast either and be like, it's bad on purpose, guys, you can't criticize it now. Another supposed lost episode of SpongeBob that had a certain gripe against Stephen Hillenburg was that of the episode Void Descendants, which according to the in-universe lore was aired on May 6, 2004. This one is not released on the Devil Day, which already puts it at a higher plane than the 666 video, but don't be mistaken, the video in its advantage with the date gets much worse with the contents. The episode opens with the title card with the title Void Descendants on it, with a black background except for a ultra hyper realistic eye where the O in Void should be. The music playing in the background seems to be a bunch of random notes that would not be heard in a SpongeBob title card, or any episode of the show at all. The music is interrupted by static, as the credits in Morse code fade in as they would for any SpongeBob episode. I will of course be translating the Morse code into English for you guys. Storyboard directors: Zalgo. Written by Stephen will see one of them. I must admit that I'm not the greatest creepypasta nut in the bunch, so when I saw the word Zalgo, I thought it would be some anti-Christ symbolism or something similarly edgy. I guess I underestimated the might of the creator of this video, because apparently Zalgo is a creepypasta cryptid who can make people insane and destroy the world. I'm not sure if I appreciate this more or less than if he had just put Satan or something like that. I'll also admit that the word C in the written by credit is obscured by the giant date plastered on the screen, so I can't say for sure that that's what the word is. But with the information given, that's the only word that makes sense that ends in EE in the place of that sentence. Creative director: join us. Animation director: die like us. Supervising producer: Stephen, your death will come one day. On one hand, I like the effort it takes to just slap your creepy messages into an online Morse code translator and put those instead of the text in plain English. On the other hand, it means more effort for me to dissect the video for messages that I'm sure we can all agree are just there to try and shock the audience. The episode begins with a slideshow of images and some AI voiceovers to go with the pictures. I'll just play the 30-second AI slop fest, because to summarize doesn't do justice to how unintentionally funny this video is.
Patrick, can you give me a shovel?
Sure. Here you go.
1 minute later.
SpongeBob, have you found something?
A few minutes later.
Have you found the treasure yet?
1 eternity later.
I found the treasure. Everyone, hurry!
Jonas.
Where's my arm?
Jonas. I came to your job. Why don't you join me?
For some reason, SpongeBob becomes demonic, evil, dark SpongeBob and murders the rest of the cast. The Mr. Krabs scene playing audio